As a leader, you know how important it is to develop those critical thinking skills. You know those skills, the ones that leave you strategic and tactical in your approach to many of the different challenges you may face in your business or your organization. Hi, I'm Debra Kasowski, 3-time best-selling author, speaker, executive coach, and the host of the Millionaire Woman Show podcast. I want to welcome you back to our leadership series, and today I'm talking to you about developing critical thinking skills. Now, these skills are not necessarily seen as the soft skills or the hard skills, but critical thinking is crucial in order to anticipate life events. As we know, we face a lot of uncertainty in anything that we do, and the more we can develop those critical thinking skills, the better. So I'm going to start off by just sharing a number of ways, and I want you to be thinking about, and maybe grab a paper and pen, thinking about the ways you have been developing your critical thinking skills. So one of the biggest things is be open-minded. Push aside the judgments. Because what I see people do is they form a judgment based on past experiences. And those past experiences are not occurring in this moment. But what they've done is they've assimilated information that they've had from the past, feel like something's reflecting similar, and they've already placed judgment. So whether they're going to follow through or reject something. So instead, I want you to be curious. And this is why I wrote the book, Let's Be Curious. How to ask the right questions, get better answers so you can create what you want. By doing so, asking questions and coming from a place of curiosity, you put aside the judgment so that you can be open to being curious and seeking to understand and learn new things. So I want you to ask questions when you come upon a scenario. What is it that I am not potentially seeing here? Looking at it from different perspectives. So I don't know about you, but as a kid, I used to play with a kaleidoscope where you could twist and turn it and you can see different pictures. The same thing with any scenario or challenge that you're facing. I want you to look at it from all different perspectives. And as you go through life and your experiences, I want you to take time. As a leader, it's really important to take time for reflection. Preferably every day. When you think about how your day went, how you interacted with others, it's important to step back and say, what went well? Is there any interaction that I wish would have went better? And if I was to repeat that, how would I, handle it differently? And the fourth one I'm going to throw in is there anyone I need to follow up with that I now realize that I didn't handle that situation correctly, or how I would have liked to handle it, that I can go back to that person. This is that self-reflection piece is huge. And that's where our greatest growth comes from as a leader, is to really pay attention to our growth factor. And that growth factor is every interaction being able to reflect and say, again, what went right? What didn't go so well? What could I have done better? Every day, if you're continually building on those successes and how you've pushed through some of those challenges, you're going to start to see patterns of how you approach situations. Are you someone who just barges in without thinking and thinks you're going to solve it right away? Or are you one of those people who kind of lay back and check out things and assess the situation before jumping in? Safety first, right? So when you're thinking about different scenarios, I want you to really look at the big picture, but also focus on looking at the details that make up that big picture. You may have time to collaborate with others, brainstorm ideas, and really focus on having conversation. Conversations are what expose us to different viewpoints, to different perspectives. But here's the thing. We're often told, surround yourself, you're the average of who you surround yourself with, which is 100% true. Here's the thing I want to challenge you though, is you need to get out of your circle, put yourself in different situations, and this is why diversity and inclusion is great. Traveling is another beautiful way to embrace culture, to embrace different perspectives. People all come to the table with different experiences, different education. Everyone is so unique. And then when we put them together to have conversations about certain perspectives, different ideas, what we're doing is we're expanding our thinking tank, our thought process, and we can start seeing things differently. To see different angles, often someone will offer a different perspective that you might not have thought of before because you are, how I say, groomed or socialized thinking a certain way. So when we put ourselves in a different experience, we're exposed to different situations. So now we can start seeing things and perhaps considering some of our viewpoints in a different perspective. And then this is really great because what we do is we assimilate new knowledge and integrate what we want into our own practices. So this is where we start evaluating, is this serving me? We're analyzing. We're also reasoning for the decisions that we now make. What we once thought before, we may have shifted based on someone's viewpoint. The other thing is always considering the source where you get information from. Is that individual credible? What is their experience? How do they know this information? This is where we want to throw in that, the 5 W's and the how. The what, why, when, where, and the how, and really pay attention to answering all those questions in different ways. So we want to collect facts, figures, stats to support some of our information. Some of it is scientific based on reviews, peer reviews. So we really want to be paying attention. Are we using best practices? And, after having some experience, you're often doing a gut check as well and relying on some of that intuition when you ultimately make some of those decisions. Because critical thinking and decision making go hand in hand. The other thing I want you to think about is staying solution focused, really being able to come from a solution focused approach versus problem focused, looking for threats and weaknesses all the time. What I want you to do when we're looking at a solution approach, we're looking at those strengths, we're looking at the opportunities, but then we're thinking about, who am I aspiring to be in this situation? What would I like to see for my leadership, for my business? Whatever it is you're wanting to put this framework around, is that we're looking to aspire, and what are the results that we're wanting to get? So when you shift things to looking at different situations, this is where that learning occurs. Another great way to do this is looking at case scenarios. When you are doing any form of training or leadership development, we learn best from each other's stories. So if you have a case scenario of a story of a situation, and then thinking about situational leadership, how would I handle this situation? This is where what if this happened? How would we handle this? What if this happened? Then what? And if this happened? So one of the things I like to tell people after they've had an interview or they ask me about interview questions is this. You might respond to an interview question based on whatever scenario was offered to you. And often what I see happen is people give the outside of the onion. And we want you to peel back the onion because often these interview questions are behavioral, right? They're situational. We want to know how you're going to handle things. How are you going to communicate to others your needs? How are you going to ensure the right people know what they need to know and that they have the right tools to do the job? So this is why that critical thinking piece is huge. You are really coming from a place of anticipation. What's the next question? If this is the response, this is what I'm going to do. If I get this response, this is the next step. When you're one step ahead, 2 steps ahead, having that anticipation empowers you and gives you the confidence to handle any situation. And people often say to me, Deb, I don't have all the knowledge. I didn't ask you to know everything. The biggest thing as being a leader, it's not about knowing all the answers to everything. Do you know where to find the answers? Do you know how to leverage your resources? Do you know how to connect with others who may know where those resources are from? There is so much more than knowing everything. It's about being resourceful and knowing that you can lead through any situation, being confident and trusting in your abilities to find out how. When you know your why, whatever the vision is for what you are going, the deliverable, the action that you're heading into, when you know your why and you are pursuing the how by asking questions that are really relevant, that are really important, and you're not afraid to ask. Because one of the things I talk about in my book, Let's Be Curious, is that there came a point where people stopped asking questions. And you want to think about back into your own life. Is there ever a time where someone shut you down when you asked a question, told you it was a stupid question? And by the way, no questions are stupid. They're all starting points. Every question is a starting point to getting to you to where you want to be. So you need to ask. And I'm not saying go into interrogation to pepper people with your questions. Make sure your questions are thoughtful, thought-provoking, get you thinking, because often your answer is going to lie in your question if you ask it a right way. Not that it's going to be rhetorical, but in the fact that when you ask the question, it starts stimulating the thought process in your brain of searching for answers. And it's going to look from past experiences and how you can move forward and find the answers that you need. You want to be applying what you know. And the best way to develop critical thinking when you think about different situations that have come up for you is to be able to teach others. And when you teach others, you reinforce what you know so that when situations come up, it's ingrained into your neural pathways about this is the action I take, that it becomes so automatic. But here's the thing that I'm going to challenge you with today. Every time you reach a new level of leadership or you break through a challenge you might have had, there's going to be new challenges. You're going to need new tools in the toolbox. You're going to need to continually develop and take different approaches. And the best growth is self-reflection and asking those positive questions to get to where you want to go. You don't want to be using negative leading questions. Why not this? You're not having, that's not happening, is it? You really want to be thinking about questions that are purposeful, questions that are meaningful. And when you have a complex situation, what you truly need to be doing is breaking it down into smaller pieces and asking yourself questions about each piece. The other question you might think about is, where have I faced a similar challenge in the past? Or in your group, has anyone else faced this kind of challenge? Now, if we were playing in an imaginary world, when we throw out a question like that, we could think about what would we do? I remember in high school, we had a Lord of the Flies, scenario, and it was like, so what would you do if you were stranded on an island? And you had to come up with all these ideas, how you're going to get off the island, how you're going to survive, how you're going to interact with other people. So when you take time to look at your leadership, look at situations, and really self-reflect on what's working, what's not working, what do I want to keep? How do I want to show up as a leader? What are the results that I want to see? And who is it I aspire to be? All stemming back to, what if this situation happened? What if that situation happened? How am I going to handle this? And I'll tell you how. You're going to speak with conviction. You're going to be confident in who you are. You're going to trust the process, and you're going to trust yourself to continually ask the right questions to the right people to get better answers so you can create what you want in your business and your leadership. Thank you for joining me. I'm Debra Kasowski. Please go over to my website at www.debrakasowski.com. Now, if you're interested in learning more about coaching with me, please send me a note through my website on the Contact Us page, and let's chat about having a discovery session, which is completely complimentary, to see if we're the right fit to coach together. I coach on life, leadership, and business. Thank you for joining me with this leadership series.